Giants defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence has reportedly requested a trade from the New York Giants, and I'm here to talk about why I have some concerns about this trade request and if there is a possibility that he can be moved from New York. And then, according to CBS, we have a number of draft scenarios that could cause chaos in this year's NFL 2026 draft. Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you gotta hear the music first.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, football fans, and welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and I'm holding it down for today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in, light talking football, regardless of the team that you root for, make sure you go ahead and join the NFL Central family where we love talking football because it's the best sport in the world. But hey, let's talk about Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle from the New York Giants. It is being reported that he has requested a trade from the New York Giants. And we're hearing a number of other reports coming from Adam Schefter, Peter Schrager, those guys from ESPN, that he is very, very serious about being traded from the Giants. Now, there's also some other reports coming from a number of outlets that have pretty much put out there for everybody to check out and said that, hey, some teams linked to Dexter Lawrence or have called about the availability of Dexter Lawrence. Those teams include the Chicago Bears, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Green Bay Packers, just to name a few. We go on to break down more details because it's just one of those things for a good football player that you want to talk about. Now, it's being reported that the Giants are seeking a Quinnen Williams type of deal. If you remember, this is a deal that happened between the New York Jets and the Dallas Cowboys last season. And in that deal, the Cowboys, they received Quinnen Williams, and the New York Jets, they received a 2026 second round pick, 2027 first round pick, and defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. Hefty price for Dexter Lawrence. But the thing is that I do have some questions or some quote unquote concerns when it comes down to trading for a guy like Dexter Lawrence. The first concern is the contract. He's currently still have 2 years left on his deal. Now, there is a fair aspect of it with him being one of the best around the league. He's currently ranked out of the top 10 when it comes to highest paid defensive tackles. But when you consider what transpired last year, there could be some reluctancy to go out there and make this move for a guy like Dexter Lawrence. He's been, I believe, a 3-time Pro Bowler throughout his career. He is a force in the middle of a defensive line. But the biggest concern that I have when it comes to breaking down Dexter Lawrence is your stats were horrible last season. Dexter Lawrence did not have a good season last year. Yes, he's only 28 years old. Yes, guys are allowed to have a said down year. But damn, like this, it's absolutely shocking, the stats that Dexter Lawrence put up last season. Last season, Dexter Lawrence played 17 games, had 31 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 8 QB hits, and half a sack. Let's keep in mind, he was lined up next to guys like Brian Burns, Kaden Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter for those 17 games. And those stats are on your docket when the year prior you had 9 sacks. And I'm not going out there and just basing it off sacks. It's just based on, first of all, what if you're now declining as a football player? That's something organizations will have to strongly consider when it comes down to trading for you. Was it just a down year? Can you bounce back and get back to that Pro Bowl level that you once were the year prior? It's legit questions. Then, not only do I have to trade for you, I have to give up a Quinnen Williams type of a deal. That's a first, a second, and a player. And on top of that draft capital that I have to give up for you, I got to re-sign you to an extension that places you at a comfortable level amongst your position. That's a lot to handle if you're an organization, a lot to consider if you're an organization. That goes for the Green Bay Packers, who just traded away 2 first-round picks and a player in Kenny Clark for Micah Parsons. They don't have a first-round pick this season. That goes on to say the Chicago Bears, who have the draft capital and could potentially give up a player, maybe a Grady Jarrett, but I'm sure they wouldn't want that. So they will have to give up their younger pass rusher in Javon Dexter and still cough up a first and a second. And then the Chicago Bears don't have much money right now to even pay their draft picks unless they do some restructuring around contracts. So that makes it difficult for them. And then the Chargers, I'm not sure if their salary cap situation right now. However, you need some more pass catchers on that offense, in my personal opinion, because the guys that you have, I think they're lacking a little bit. You still have to build up that offensive line. Yes, 2 of your best offensive linemen will be returning this season, but you still have other holes. So I think it's going to be really, really difficult for a franchise to go out there and trade for a guy like Dexter Lawrence. I don't necessarily know if he's one of those guys that's willing to sit out, but we have heard some reports coming from those guys from ESPN again that he's not going to be taking place in voluntary workouts or whatnot that some teams are hosting this month. They have it kind of spread out right now. And me, look, I ain't the damn GM, and I think that the guy still could potentially make plays. I still think that he can bounce back. Don't get it wrong. But I have concerns when it comes down to, number one, giving up a bunch of money for you. Number two, am I banking on just a down year and for you to bounce back? And then all the draft assets I have to give up for you. It's crazy work. So we talking money, players, and draft assets that could be costly to an organization that may not be ready or may handicap themselves if this doesn't work out. It's a sticky situation. I'm not saying that the guy's a bad football player after one season. I think some players have down years, but damn, a half sack out of 17 games for a guy that once had 9 sacks in a season, that was able to generate 6 sacks in other seasons. That's a huge red flag for me. A huge red flag. Because the pass rushers that you were lined up next to are really good pass rushers. Abdul Carter, top of the draft selection. Brian Burns, really good pass rusher. Kayvon Thibodeau, a little underwhelming throughout his career, but still solid enough to help take pressure off of you as a pass rusher. I'm pretty sure he was still sound in the run game, but man, if we giving out top dollars, we need impact plays outside of just the run game. We need you in the pass game too, buddy. Crazy work. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about that one though, man, because I do have my concerns when it comes to any team trading for Dexter Lawrence. Now, before we get up out of here, I want to talk about the CBS article who was written by Josh Edwards, who gave out a list of draft scenarios that could cause chaos in this year's upcoming draft in just a couple weeks here. And I'm not going to go through every single one. I'm just going to go through 3 that really stood out to me. The first one that Josh Edwards put out there was Caleb Downs or Ruben Bain Jr. may drop out of the top 15 overall in the first round. When it came to Caleb Downs, Josh mentioned this. He said the Ohio State safety does not play a premium position and was not an elite athletic tester. Malachi Starks and Brian Branch were not as highly regarded, but fell into similar buckets and were taken later than projected. When it came to Ruben Bain, Josh Edwards said Bain is an outlier because of his lack of arm length, which could be true. And I think that if these guys do fall in the draft, they could potentially help out some teams that need safety help. So you dropping out of top 15, I believe the Minnesota Vikings pick at 16. That could be a solid pickup for a maniac and a defensive coordinator in Brian Flores. The Chicago Bears, they need safety help. Dennis Allen likes to use his defensive backs and with nickel and dime packages and allow them to get downhill and make plays. That can be crazy. And if Ruben Bain drops, there could be some teams that potentially trade up for him, and that could absolutely cause some chaos to where some guys who were planned or mocked to go in the later part of the first round could suddenly fall to the second and generate more trades. So I think that is very, very interesting to say the least. And I think it's something that you have to keep your eye on. Another thing that Josh Edwards put out there as something that can cause draft night chaos is AJ Brown getting traded. I think, me personally, I don't think he's getting traded. That's just me. I don't think AJ Brown is going to get traded. I just don't. I don't see it happening. But I've seen crazier things throughout my life watching this game. So it can happen. The thing is how enticing will this package be? We just seen Jalen Waddle go for a first, a third, and a fourth. And Howie Roseman at one point earlier in the offseason, when the season concluded and stuff, he wanted a first and a second. So will a team be like, you know what? Our guy's not on the board. Maybe let's just say, for the sake of discussion, the New England Patriots. What if they say, hey, our guy is not here? Let's make a call to the Eagles. I don't think it's gonna happen, but there's a possibility that it can happen. And then I think that maybe a team who is a little bit more draft needy, you know what I mean, with the way that their team is currently constructed, they could potentially go out there and pull this off and say, hey, let's go ahead and get right. You know what I mean? So I think for the Eagles' sake, I think they should hold on to AJ Brown because you want him to be alongside Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and Devontae Smith. That's just my personal opinion. But I've seen crazier things happen. We'll see what happens on draft night here in a couple weeks. And the last one I want to go and discuss today is Josh Edwards pointed out that the Cowboys or the Rams could potentially trade in the top 10. Now, this is an interesting one, and his reasoning is because the Cowboys seem motivated to be more competitive in 2026, while the Rams have been pushing all their chips in the middle of the table. Now, for the Cowboys' sake, I say, if you guys there, you got to make something shake, Jerry. But me personally, I'd rather go get a number of players versus one unless it's an absolute game changer. You know what I mean? And do we consider Ruben Bain an absolute game changer considering the length? I think that's up for those front offices to decide. Do we feel like the Cowboys could potentially trade up and maybe go grab a running back? That'll be a lot of draft capital to give away if Jeremiah Love slips past 5. Especially, I believe, because the Cowboys pick at 12, if I remember correctly. But for the sake of the Los Angeles Rams, they are pushing their chips into the middle of the table. Could they trade up into the top 10? Who knows? But they did give up massive draft capital to get Trent McDuffie, and they edged out a lot of money on. So they're going to have to be strategic about how they dress all this stuff. But on the flip side of that, this is a franchise that has once said, F those picks. So why wouldn't they do it again? Especially with some of the concerns surrounding Puka Nacua. If you feel like there's a way that you can, let's just say for the sake of discussion, get Mekhi Lemon, why not trade up and go get your guy? Especially with some uncertainty surrounding Puka Nacua. Because the one thing that you don't want is to etch out a lot of money to Puka Nacua and he becomes a bigger problem. Because over the last 6 months, he's been a problem. I'm really don't like getting into the off the field stuff, but you do know the stuff that was on the stream, and you do know the recent reports that came out about where he's currently at, which is rehab. I don't like to get into that, but just for context, that's where he's at. So I think for the Rams' sake, you got to do everything that you can to really capitalize on the last few years of Matthew Stafford. You got to go cash in and get you another chip. The Los Angeles Rams was a team that was destined to go to the Super Bowl last year, and they allowed their division rivals to go capture that flag. I think if they get into the Super Bowl, they beat the Patriots too, just like the Seahawks did. But guess what? Your defensive backfield couldn't stop anybody. So now you rejuvenate that area of your team. And now you might want a little bit more firepower, maybe more so in the wide receiver department, because we heard rumors that you wanted to potentially trade off of Devontae Adams. So if you're the Los Angeles Rams, you got to do everything possible to make this work this season, because who knows if Matthew Stafford is coming back after this season. I think it'll be a hell of a way to ride out into the sunset. Go win you a second championship, put at your name higher up in the QB rankings, and boom, retire. Chill out with the family. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that'll be something interesting to watch. How aggressive will Jerry Jones be? Because apparently he made 3 different offers for Max Crosby to try to bring him to Dallas. So Jerry Jones is showing that he wants to change this thing down in Dallas. And for the Rams, we know they are not afraid to say F those picks. It's going to be an interesting draft, man. But hey, if you want more from some of those draft scenarios that could potentially cause chaos, again, that article can be found on CBS Sports, and Josh Edwards wrote the article. But hey, man, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode. Before you get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts on my concerns that I have about trading for Dexter Lawrence. Let me know which draft scenario do you find could cause some chaos, or what is a scenario of your own that you believe can cause some chaos in the draft. Leave it all down below in the comment box and let me know your thoughts. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you always love football, and y'all already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.